Hello again, we're working in Photoshop CS4, and in this tutorial we're going to show you how to do a double exposure effect. It's a pretty easy effect to do. It relies on your ability to kind of understand masks, so if you haven't done a lot of mask work, you might want to go back and look at some tutorials on using a basic mask. For those of you who are familiar with masks, this will seem pretty easy. It'll take a couple tries, but it's going to be overall pretty easy to get the effect that you're trying to get. It's also very similar to an effect that we're going to do later on, which is called dragging the exposure. So where we are in this picture is we did some skin retouches, we did some cleanup under the eyes with the clone stamp, and right now I'm going to merge these layers up. If you have an image that you've already worked on and you've already merged it up, you can pick up right here and start from any image actually that you're working on. For us, I'm going to merge these layers up by hitting Shift, Option, Command, and the letter E. It's going to merge them up to the top layer. And from here, we have everything that we've done previously now merged up to the top. As I come up to this layer, I'm going to duplicate it and hit Command J. And I'm going to turn off the background layer. What I want to do on this top layer, which is the copy, is to grab my direct selection tool and take the image and drop it down to maybe about 50% or 60% opacity just to start with. And I'm going to take that image and slide it over. Just by hovering over it, hold down your mouse, the little black arrow will turn to a white one, and you can see that you've slid the image over. I'm going to turn on my background image, the one that's beneath it here, hit the eye icon, it comes back on. Now you already have a look of a blurred or double exposure image happening right away, and we can play with this a little further with the use of a mask. So click back on your top layer, drop your opacity down a little further, and if you hit Command T while your top layer is selected, it's going to allow you to transform this picture. And this is the space where you can start using your arrow keys and nudge that picture over. I'm using my left arrow key. I'm using my right arrow key to go back. You can see the picture moving slightly. What I want to do is not quite line her eyes up. I want to have the image on the top, which is our opacity at 43%, the image that's going to demonstrate some of the kind of double exposure effect, and the image on the bottom, which is at 100%, I'm going to leave alone. So the important thing here is just to kind of shift the image around using your left and right arrow keys. Find a space that you think you're comfortable with and hit the check arrow at the top to say OK. What I want to do right now is launch a mask on this layer, so I'm going to just click the mask key. It automatically launches an open white mask. And what we do know about masks is that if you click in it to make it active and you click and paint with black, which is to say you're going to be painting with a hide because black hides the adjustment. Grab a nice soft brush from your brush palette. I'm using a brush here. I click outside to activate that brush. I'm going to paint with 100%, and I'm going to increase my brush size by hitting the right bracket several times. You can see my brush getting bigger on the screen. And what I'm going to do is just paint away, mask out the areas I don't want the blurred exposure to happen. So I'm just painting through her face here and around the mouth area here. And I like what's happening around the edge of her face. If you can see this portion here, the edge of her face and her hair, that's all staying in a little bit of a blur. And remember, you're not stuck with this. You can go ahead and paint with, if you feel like you took away too much of the double exposure. Remember, the double exposure lives on the top layer, the bottom is totally fine. The reason the double exposure lives on the top layer is because we've shifted it over. So I'm going to go back in here and paint with black and actually make that eye not part of the double exposure. Select my direct selection tool with the black arrow up here, click on the top layer, and then click the picture, hold on the picture and drag it further over. And you can see the area that is your double exposure is now sliding over. So we have that drop down to 43% opacity, and the eyes that we painted the mask to protect are staying nice and sharp. I can also take up that opacity even further. I can drop it down even further. I can pull it all the way up here to show none of the movement, and if I drop it down, it reveals where we've shifted that picture. If I turn it off, that's the layer on the bottom, which has not been moved at 100%. The layer on the top is being revealed through the outside area, which is white, and the face is being protected with the mask. So I hope you have fun. See if you can try it out on a picture or two. You can be as extreme as you want with this by moving it over. If you see a line, which would happen as you move that picture over in this left portion here, you can always mask that out. If you don't want to see stuff like that, oops, sorry about that, you can click on the mask and you can paint right through that. So the area that's staying double exposed or looks like it has movement is really just the hair and the jawline. But there's no end to how you can play with this. You can move it back and forth. You can go ahead and mask part of the eye or the face in or out. But the idea is that you shift the top picture over to create the idea of a moved or a double exposed picture. Hope this tutorial helped you learn something and hope you have fun with it and try it out on a few photos.